Okay, I thought I posted this, but I didn't. So, just to review, and I know you had this in your math notebook, so it's just a backup. Um, Equations and expressions. So, when we're talking about equations and expressions, we're talking about algebra, which means we're replacing a number with a letter, and remember that's called the variable. So the letter that stands for a number, and that letter could be anything. But if it's the same letter, that means it's like the same number. Like, so if you had x plus x in a sentence, that means x has to be the same number. Letter that replaces a number. And if we remember, our equation is a number sentence with an equal sign, because remember, equation looks like equal. So that means we can solve it. And then the expression is a number sentence without an equal sign. So the only way we can solve an expression is if they tell us what the letter equals. So for example, if we have x plus 12 equals 17, then we can figure out that x equals 5. But if we just had x plus 12, we can't solve that because we don't know what x is. I mean, we can put in a number here, of course, but like, what if I put in 18 and you put in 3 and somebody else puts in 7? It doesn't work that way. You have to know. But if you have it, so it says like solve for it, and it tells you like x, sorry, I'm on my eraser, x equals 4, then you can solve it. So then you put the x in, you put the 4 in where the x is, so then it would be 4 plus 12, so then it would equal 16. And again, this is all review, just making sure you have it. And then we talked about inverse operations. Do you remember this? Which just means doing the opposite operation. So if the problem has adding, then we would subtract. If the problem has dividing, then we would multiply. If it has multiplying, we would divide. And if it has subtracting, we would add. And then we just had our symbols here. Now remember, if the letter touches the number, that means multiply. If there's a dot instead of, so like 5 times x, that also means multiply. If it says 5 parentheses x, that equals multiply. And the reason why, like, if you remember, we said that sometimes we don't like to do like 5x or 5 times 2 is because the x of the times also looks like the x of a letter when we're using algebra. So instead of doing that, we like to just use other symbols so that we know. So again, letter touching the number, point, a dot, or it's in parentheses, that means multiply. You can also still have this, but just in case it's not there, it also means that. Okay, so if we had a problem that was 3x, is that an equation or an expression? It's an expression because there is no equal sign. So technically, we cannot solve this. If we had an equal sign, we could figure it out. Now, on your I know it, you might have that it tells you x equals something. And if it tells you what x equals, you're just putting it into the problem. So if x equals 4, then we know that when the letter touches the number, it means multiply, so we just do 3 times 4, which is 12. Okay, and then sometimes we might have it as 4x equals 48. Now, some of these are simple facts, so you might be able to do it. But if you don't know what times 4 is 48, then you would do the opposite operation, and the opposite operation of this is to divide. So you would do 48 divided by 4, which is 12. It's the same thing if you were doing something with adding. Like if you had 47 plus r equals 139, and you were like, oh, well, I can't think of what times 47 equals 139, then you would just do the opposite operation. So you would take the two numbers and you would do it like that, and you would subtract. So you'd have 9 minus 7 is 2, borrow, and then 13 minus 4 is 9. Just checking because you guys are doing it. And then you would just put it in there. So then you would say 47 plus 92 equals 139. Now remember, sometimes we get messed up because we do the operation that's shown. So for example, you're adding 40, I just erased, sorry, hold on one second. Back to my pencil. If you're adding 47 plus 139, if you added these two together, you would get 186. So if you put that in there into your problem, which remember we said to do this because this is where we get screwed up, you would immediately notice right away that that wouldn't work. So if you looked at it and you put 47 plus 186 equals 139, you would see that you did something wrong. So you should always put your answer into the problem just to see if it's right, or just like look at it before you press submit, because you might then get frustrated because you're thinking that like you did the math right, but you just didn't follow the correct steps, which you didn't do the right operation.